Hey, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Hey, this is Gregory Wiles coming live to you from Houston, Texas, with this inspirational morning talk. For first time listeners, I usually just come on. I don't have a fixed time now, but I come on and I just share some knowledge, drop some knowledge with you guys as God lead me. I'm going to share with you guys. But we had started a little series on Tuesday about understanding the gospel. So here we are again with part number 3. Tessa, good morning. Cuz, good morning. How are you doing? How are you doing? So yes, we started a little series about understanding the gospel. Jillian, good morning. And the goal is here, we're not explaining the scriptures, really getting into the meaning of these scriptures and interpretations and good stuff like that. We're just showing people how to use to get the best of the gospel, how to understand the gospel, how to use this gospel to understand it. Because many times people keep thinking the Bible is just repetitive, repetitive. You're reading it and it's like, oh, I just read the same thing and I read the same thing again and again and again. How much time do you keep telling me about the same thing? But we understand the Gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, John. These are eyewitnesses that give account of Jesus' life. So it's some of the same things, but they're just telling us what they saw, what they remember about Jesus' existence here. So say that to say is that we got to take all of them and look at all of them, compare them to get the full picture of these different miracles and the different things that Jesus did here, right? So that's what we're doing this week, just trying to showing folks, especially for those Sunday school teachers, small group teachers, anyone, if you're trying to understand this gospel, this I'm just trying to show people how to do it, to extract all the information from it. Because if we just look at one of them, we wouldn't get the true picture of what went down. And like we said in court, that's why a judge need more than one witness. Because 5 people could see the same thing and they can have different perspective. Each one of them going to tell you something that the other one didn't see. So when you hear all of them report on this, then you can get a better understanding of what really went down. Because it just depends on our education, our experiences, the way we grow up, our intellect. It's we different things is going to stick out to us from the same thing. But the point is, the conclusion of whatever it is, you know, that's what's going to happen. They can all conclude the same way, but how they lead up to that is what is interesting and where you're going to get your information from. So today we're going to look at Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. Jesus healed a demon-possessed boy. We're going to look at this at 3 of them, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, give an account on this miracle. So we're going to take this one and look at it and see why we can't just focus on one. We need to look at all 3. If 4 of them reported on it, we need to look at all 4. Some of them incidents, only 2 of them, like the one we're going to do tomorrow, is only 2 of them reported on it. But we need take all of them. So let's look at this. This is in Matthew. Now we can start from Matthew because I can go through it in the same order that you may read the Bible in, from Matthew, Mark, Luke. So let's start from Matthew and see what Matthew tell us about this incident here. This is Matthew 17, 14 through 21. Matthew 17, 14 through 21. And here what we say here. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into fire or into water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him, right? But they could not heal him. So here, he brought him to his disciple. Disciple could not heal him. So let's go on and see. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon and it came out of the boy and he was healed at that moment. But so my question here now, this guy said his son was sick and he bring him to the disciples to heal him, right? He said, brought new disciples, but they could not heal him. So my question right away here, did this father know it was a demon this guy had? Jesus detects a demon that's causing this, and Jesus rebuked the demon. Did the father really know that it's a demon? Right? I don't know that. He just said he was sick. If I just reading this, I think the father was on the impression that this boy was just sick, and he bring him to Jesus, and Jesus detect there's a demon there that's going on a lot. We don't know, lots of stuff going on with us, and it could be a case like this, right? So I don't know that. So let's go on and finish this up. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked him, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" He replied, "Because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to the mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." So this is what Matthew gave us his account of this incident, right? And I just want to say this, I'm not doing this today, but I just can't help myself. When he's saying, when the disciples asked him, he said, "I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed," that's all it takes, right? You got to start somewhere. They use this term mustard seed here because the mustard seed, if you plant that, the mustard plant is the biggest of garden plants. So he's saying, if you just have you start out with a small amount of faith, keep reading, and then trying to learn, and that's going to grow into something big. But just start off with just enough as a mustard seed you need to start with, right? It's like a big tree. It starts from a seed, a big mango tree, or just one seed is small, and then it produces. So that's why he said, I just couldn't help myself to say that, but we're not explaining the scriptures. We're just trying to see how to use it. So from Matthew's account, I got that this boy, father, bring his son. The disciples couldn't heal him, and he brought him to Jesus. Jesus detect was a demon. Jesus cast out the spirit. The disciples want to know why they couldn't have done this, and Jesus tell them, this is a faith issue. This is a faith issue. When you get more faith, you'll be able to do these things, right? All right, so Matthew, I got it from Matthew. I got some questions. Did the boy father know that he got, this was a demon? I don't know that. So let's go on and see what Mark tell us that Matthew didn't tell us to make us make more sense of this story. So Mark 9:14 through 29. Mark 9:14 through 29. It's the same story reporting on. When they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them, and the teachers of the law arguing with them. So it looked like these disciples were split up now, and one set coming to the next set, and they see these teachers arguing with them. As soon as all the people saw Jesus, so Jesus got to be with his second set of disciples were coming now, right? That's why gathering from what Mark telling me. As soon as the people saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. People see Jesus, to run to him. All right, let's see what go on. What are you arguing with them about? He asked, because Jesus asked him, what are you arguing with these people about? What's going on? A man in the crowd answered, "Teacher, I brought you my son who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech." Whoa. Matthew didn't tell us this man actually know that his son was possessed by a spirit. And now he's saying, robbed him of his speech. So we get a little bit more from Mark here. What's going on? This spirit had something to do with this stopping this guy from talking, right? He's robbed him of his speech. And he knew it was a spirit. The father knew. Matthew said this, he just brought him to be healed, and they couldn't do it. But Mark saying this father knew this was an evil spirit on his son. "I brought you my son who's possessed by a spirit who has robbed him of his speech. Whenever it seizes him, it threw him into the ground. He foams at his mouth, gnashed his teeth, and became rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not," right? And he noted the same seizure, the report about the seizure and foaming. And he gave us a little more that he's foaming his mouth and stuff like that. But now that we know, this father knew that this spirit, there's an evil spirit on his son, and he tell us it's robbing him of his speech. So we get a little bit more what type of demon he's dealing with here right now, right? Let's see what else he tells us here. Then, "You unbelieving generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long?" So they both remember it the same way. But Jesus said it. So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately. So Matthew didn't tell us the spirit recognized Jesus. Matthew didn't tell us that, right? Matthew says that Jesus cast the spirit out. So he said when the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at his mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" Okay, we're getting a little more information now. How long? This spirit just jumped on him yesterday. This spirit 2 days ago, last week, now Mark telling us Jesus actually asked this question so we can get an idea now how long this guy was suffering from this thing. How long has he been like this? From childhood, he answered. So the man saying, this guy dealing with this from childhood. I still don't know the guy age though, how old he was, so for how long, but this when since he was a little boy, he dealing with this demon was on him, right? From childhood, he answered, it has often threw him into the fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. So he's saying, if you can help us, Jesus, just help us. Jesus said, if you can, don't insult me, bro. You know, when you bring your son through, this is Jesus. If I can do anything, I can show you what I can do with that demon. If I can, Jesus said, everything is possible for the one who believes. Immediately the boy father exclaimed, I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. There's a lot to unpack there, but we're dealing with that today. When Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. You deaf and mute spirit. So Jesus tell us Mark tell us exactly what type of spirit this guy was dealing with. He was dealing with a deaf and mute spirit. He said, Jesus said, you deaf and mute spirit, he said, I command you to come out of him and never enter him again. So we know it's a deaf and mute spirit. Matthew didn't tell us that. Matthew said he just cast out the spirit, right? The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said he's dead. So we get more information. There's a whole delivery process. What the delivery process looked like. The deliverance process looked like. The boy looked like he was dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. After Jesus has gone indoors, his disciples asked him privately, why couldn't we drive him out? He replied, this kind only come out by prayer. But again, this is a little step forward, guys. We need to take it because I don't know why the NIV didn't translate this crucial part here if you read it from the King James. So sometimes when you're reading it, you need to reference either. I'd like to reference King James if you have a special translation that you enjoy. But I always sometimes go back and reference the King James and make sure nothing is missing there, because there's a key piece missing from this verse 29 here. That's in the King James, that is not in, at least not in the NIV and some other translations. They just said here, he replied, this kind only come out by prayer, right? But here what the King James said, and he said unto them, this kind can only come forth by nothing but prayer and fasting, which is a big deal. So again, sometimes you got to go to different, especially King James, reference that, because this is a big miss here. Prayer and fasting, King James said. So some of the things we're dealing with, we say we got to pray and fast to get rid of it. But if they just say by prayer, that's a big thing they left out there, right? So God telling them, you got to be prayed up and fasted for you to rebuke some of these demons. Praying alone is not going to work. But you got to be fasting also, right? So that's what I get from that. So from Mark account, I know how long this guy was suffering from this stuff. I know what type of spirit it is. And what Jesus telling him, for you to get out some of these stuff, you got to be praying and fasting, right? So let's look at Luke, the third one who reported on this. See if Luke can fill in some more gaps that we didn't know before. The next day when they came down from the mountain, a large crowd met him. A man in the crowd called out, teacher, I beg you to look at my son, for he's my only child. So now we know him. This is this man's only child. None of them thought that was important to say, right? Luke said, you know what? I'm going to say this. This is my only child. A spirit sees him and he suddenly screams. So he knew, all the other two said this man knows a spirit, an evil spirit was possessing his son. It threw him into convulsion so that he foams at the mouth. It scarcely ever leaves him and destroy him. I beg your disciples to drive it out, but they could not. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you and put up with you? So they all consistently said a piece right there. Even while the boy was coming, the demon threw him into the ground. And so again, these two telling us this demon recognized Jesus. Matthew didn't say that, but these two. So that's why we need more. So I could say, well, okay, this is consistent. These two, it was very consistent that this demon recognized Jesus, right? He threw him into the ground. Even when the boy was coming, the demon threw him to the ground in a convulsion. But Jesus rebuked the impure spirit, healed the boy, and gave him back to his father. And they were all amazed at the greatness of God. So now if I read Luke just stopped there. Luke didn't tell me the disciples asked Jesus why we couldn't cast this out. Luke didn't go on and say that. He said they were just all amazed at the greatness of God. So if I read in this Luke translation alone, I don't get that information that the disciples were worried why they could not have cast it out. I just know Jesus cast out this demon. I didn't know from Luke translate what type of demon he dealing with either. But Mark tell me it's a deaf and dumb spirit. Mark tell me how long this boy was dealing with it. And you see, that's why we need to read through all of these translations, even in some cases reference the King James, if that's not the one you're using. That's like I love the reference. To me, sometimes they got a little more, and the translation's going to leave out a little bit of things, right? So this is how we use the gospel, guys, to get a full picture of what goes on. You see clearly, if we just read one of them, we don't get all the information what went on in these stories. So don't just pull up one, read it, and say, that's it, because we're going to miss in a lot of key pieces. And as teachers, the people who teach, depends on the point you're trying to bring home. You could read these, you could present from one of these translations, depends on the message you're trying to give. You could choose whichever translation has what you really interested in presenting, but you still need to know the whole story because people got questions and you need to know the whole story. But choose and so bring out the point which you're trying to bring out from one of these translations, but don't just stop. If for learning purposes, don't just read one and say, this is it. Go through all three of them. All right, guys, we can leave that there. Tomorrow, I think we're going to take on Jesus feed the 4,000. Only 2 guys reported on that, and we're gonna take that on. And Jesus feed the 4,000. Yesterday we fed the 5,000. Tomorrow we're gonna do the 4,000. All right, guys, have a great day, and thank you guys for joining me live. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.